A little bit about this topic. Let me start off with a nice disclaimer. The contents of this topic may seem simple, complex, difficult to accept, highly questionable, perfectly rational, or simply confusing. Afterwards, you may have experienced feelings of being upset, happy, angry, discontented, excited, or simply in the state of absent-minded oblivion. In other words, this presentation should be lots of fun. So let us begin. Before we can truly go into the economics of happiness, and therefore economics of happiness, we got to go over a couple of basic principles of economics. Now, some of you I recognize are from my econ classes, so this should be a nice rehash. For everybody else who didn't take economics for a while, allow me to just remind you of a few concepts. The first concept is opportunity cost. Now, the concept of opportunity cost is really simple. What it simply states is that every choice that you make, you have to give something up. Whether it's time, whether it's what money buys you, whatever it is, you have to give something up for everything that you do. Example, you are here. Well, that means you're not somewhere else. You're not watching your kids play soccer, or you are not washing your car. You have given up something to do something. The second concept that we have to be mildly aware of is the law of diminishing returns. Now, the law of diminishing returns simply states that every time we acquire something, the value of what it is that we acquire diminishes. And if we acquire another unit of that same item, it doesn't mean as much to us as the previous. So let's give an example. Imagine I'm a magic genie, and I teleported you to the Sahara Desert. Now, I've been to the Sahara Desert, and that is how it looks like. And you will notice it's missing something, primarily water. So you've been at the Sahara Desert now for about 30 minutes. You're completely parched. You want water. You look through your pockets, and you notice that I'm not such a horrible genie after all. I'm putting into your pocket a wad of cash. Lots and lots of $100 bills, about $100,000 worth. So you got $100,000 of cash and the Sahara Desert. So maybe I am a little bit of a sadistic genie. But out of nowhere, the Arrowhead Man appears. And he has bottles of ice-cold Arrowhead water. And you're looking at him, and he's looking at you, and he takes out a bottle and says, "Do you want this?" And you go, "Uh-huh." He goes, "Great, for that bottle, that'll be $1,000. Would you pay? Yes. Of course you would. All of us would pay that $1,000, and you drink it, and it's great. Next thing he comes out with another bottle and says, "Do you want this bottle? That'll be another $1,000. Would you pay for that $1,000? Maybe. What about bottle number 3, 4, 5? How about bottle number 100? Notice that with each bottle that you acquire, not only if you drink it will you drown eventually, it has weight. If you want to think of carrying it through the Sahara, good luck carrying 1,000 bottles of water. You won't be able to lift yourself. Notice how something that is an incredible life-saving asset, if we keep on accepting it, not only does its value diminish, it becomes a life-threatening liability. And then, of course, we got the classical capitalism model. And behold and behold, we got Adam Smith, who you all know because you probably read his famous book, The Wealth of Nations. And in 1776, when he wrote his theory, and while everybody else was trying to have a revolution in America by declaring their independence against King George, Adam Smith came out with a theory. He came out with a theory saying, well, we have to understand what capitalism, because capitalism is the key to human success. And his theory was simple. Since money buys us whatever we want, and our wants can never exhaust, we always want something, so as long as we keep meeting our wants, we'll be happy. The basis of capitalism. Therefore, money buys happiness. Well, a century passes, and we enter the Industrial Revolution. 19th century, late 1800s, what do we have? We have manufacturing explosions. We have big cities becoming the major focal points of economic development. And, well, how do you get the employees to work in abysmal, small little factories producing a lot? How do we get people to work really hard in today's world? That's the question to the audience. Pay them, right? Pay them. You have to reward their productivity. So we get these really cute concepts. Well, commission sales. Sell this amount, here's your bonus. Stock options, yearly performance bonuses. And you go to places like Wall Street, and that's, who cares about my salary, what's my bonus? Because the bonus is 3, 4, 5, 10 times more than your salary. Well, that is really great. And if Adam Smith had a chance to go back and look at it and say, hey, I approve this method, because it's true capitalism, and it is what's going to get our society to the next level. It will what's going to make humans happy. And we see this. We see this throughout our society. It goes in everything. From education, if you think about it, how did we reward our children, or how were we rewarded when we brought good grades at home? Well, you got an A, here's $5. You get a B, here's $4. You get a C or a D, well, that's going to be a negative. I'm going to take away $1 from your piggy bank, or I'm going to take something of an asset. Now, money, of course, was a reward that you could reward yourself with. Because, well, if you have money, you can buy something that you want. And if you think about it, you get a ticket. How's the punishment work? Well, we take away your money. You go speeding, here's a $300 ticket. So the theory is, if you're paying this $300 to the system, you can't buy yourself something that's going to give you pleasure. And therefore, hey, guess what? You're not going to speed. Well, we can argue whether the speeding ticket is kind of making sense or is it fair. Because if you think about it, $300 ticket, the penalty is very different depending on where you are in your economic stature. So for example, if you make minimum wage and you bring home $6 net after taxes, a $300 ticket, that's 50 hours of your labor that I'm punishing you with. What if you make $100 an hour? That's 3. We committed the same crime, but the punishment is very different. But that's a different topic. And then we get into marketing. Well, I teach marketing, for those of you who don't know, and one of the things that we teach in marketing is this. We need to make you want everything. In fact, we separate the wants and needs. Now, a little quick, I know one of the presenters talked about this, but what is the difference between wants and needs? Well, if we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs are physiological. It's what you need to survive for you or your species. And there's not that many needs we have. Food, water, air, shelter, well, and sex for the species. But everything else is a want. Well, for us in marketing, our job is to make sure that everything you want, you think you really need. And then if that's the case, you need everything you want. And if that's the case, you'll only be happy if you have what you want. And that is what it's all about. It becomes more of a hypnosis. And that's what advertising is. And if you like, take a look at this image, and I kind of like this, you might have noticed that the image kind of shifts when you look at it. But when you look at any single point, it stops. Why? Because it's an illusion. That image is completely static, just like marketing. It's one big illusion. And then we get into real life, and economics come in and says, hey, but someone else owns everything you want. So what are you going to do to get it? Well, that's where some of the problems come in. And we see this in everything, from our college experiences to, well, how universities promote it. This I got from the Colorado State University. It was from their website. And they had this top reasons to go to college. All right, I looked at it. Well, what's the top reason? A better way of life. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. So what is defined by a better way of life? Well, they went on and said, a better way of life is when you have better income potential. Better way of life occurs when you have more job stability and better benefits. And with higher paying jobs, you'll have better benefits and you will become a better family person because you stress your kids out less. Translation. You have more money, you have a better life. You'll become happier. But isn't that the case? Because that is the mantra we see over and over and over again. Well, in comes a guy named Richard Easterlin. Now, Richard Easterlin, he's an economist from USC who has been looking at this for quite a while. And in 1974, he had the audacity to ask a question. Americans are definitely getting wealthier, but are they happier? Really? Are they? And he started to look at data. Now, it's interesting enough, we've been studying, we as a society have been studying happiness of our citizens since 1940s. There's been surveys done on an annual basis. And he pulled up the surveys, and he noticed something very interesting. Since 1945, and if you take a look at the green pointed arrows, so this is the ones with the blocks on them, that represents the self-reported results of surveys of Americans saying that they're very happy. While the other straight line, the one with the red arrows, that's our real, income per household. In other words, how much we bring home after taxes and all that and everything else. So he looked at this, and this is 1974, and he said, well, it seems that we're getting wealthier, but we're not getting happier. In fact, we're not getting happier whatsoever. Our happiness either plateaued or is going down. And then when we take his research and we plug it all the way down to 2000, we get into something totally interesting. Our income skyrockets. We are 3 times wealthier. And forget, folks, this includes inflation. So we can't say, well, the inflation is the reason. No, real. Inflation discount. We make 3 to 4 times more money than we used to make back in the 50s, but our happiness never went past 1970s. I don't know what happened in the 1970s, but whatever they were producing, that worked. So Easterlin comes out with this Easterlin paradox. And he tries to explain why. Why do we have this phenomena? Why is money or wealth not generating the happiness that it's supposed to, that Adam Smith said it should, that the whole system of capitalism is based on? And he came to this conclusion. He said that, well, after you meet your basic needs and comforts, and that means having a home that you're comfortable with. And we're not talking about having a mansion. We're talking about something that you feel safe in, a place where you don't mind living for the rest of your life. After you know you can feed your family, that you know your family is safe, that you have the basic necessities. After you meet all those comforts, the only time you're going to feel happier with additional wealth is when you jump to the next level, when your lifestyle upgrades. Well, in order to feel that, and that's where he drops the big bomb, you need to double your income. So in other words, if you're making $20,000 a year, then when you make that 40 grand, you're going to feel a difference for a while. But then to get that next rush, you need 80, and then 160, and then 320, and then 440,000, then over $1 million. You get the idea. It's unsustainable. Well, of course, if that all comes out, we can see people on Wall Street running around saying, we want to be happy, please double our wages. And that's not going to happen anytime soon. You can imagine that. In fact, there's research showing that doubling people's salaries or increasing people's salaries is not going to make them happy. Well, capitalism doesn't like this idea. So they call Easterlin a big liberal hippie, saying that he's out to destroy the way we know it, and they're going to prove that the Easterlin paradox is wrong. And they try. The first argument that we need to analyze to see if Easterlin is right or wrong, and that's our job here to analyze, is to do the basic logic test. And this is brought up all the time. Ask yourself, would you be happier being paid less money or more money? Now, all of us here are going to say more money, right? Nobody here is going to say less. At least they won't admit it. Well, in that case, shouldn't we be happier than with more money? And then you start having all these authors, economists, publishing. This was from Atlantic, and this comes as January 13, 2013. From Atlantic Magazine. Yes, money does buy happiness. Citizens of richer countries are happier than citizens of poorer countries, they say. And there is no happiness plateau. That means you can be happy forever. You can keep raising your status of happiness. And then they throw this bomb. The Americans are an exception to the rule. And they think that it's because of income inequality. And here we have to stop and say, now wait a minute. We are the wealthiest nation on earth. How can we be an exception? Well, Forbes picks up on this as well, and this is actually from January 11, 2013, and the big article was, Mom was wrong, money does buy happiness, and now there's research to prove it. And this is kind of cool, because everyone's saying, oh, we have research, that means it must be true. At least Forbes, I give them credit. They admit who the economists are. It's the new research paper written by a group of economists who have long tried to debunk Easterlin's research, reached the exact opposite position that more money will make us feel better. Now wait a minute. Feel better or make us happy? There's quite a difference. Well, let's continue. What research were they talking about? The research they were talking about was the annual Gallup poll, world poll, that measures happiness around the world. They've been doing this for quite a while now. What the Gallup does is they call and talk to over thousands of people in 150 countries. And the participants must be 15 years old, and they must be clear and free of any strange disease that's killing their lifestyle. And they ask people, how happy are they? And they don't just ask, how happy are you now, at this moment? They ask questions like, how happy were you yesterday? How happy do you think you're going to be tomorrow? They really want to find out what people think. Then they start asking a whole lot of personal life questions, such as, what's your job? What's your income? What's your social status? And everything else that they can. And once they did, they published this information. Well, not too long ago, the World Happiness Report was published. Now, the people who published this report are not just your general of-the-mill economists. We're talking about people like the director of the Earth Institute of Columbia University, John Halliwell, who is the professor emeritus of economics at not only British Columbia, but he's also a fellow of the Canadian Institute of Advanced Research. And Richard Laird, whose name you have seen in the previous slides, he's the director for the London School of Economics. These are the top-tiered economists and researchers. And they published a 161-page report based on all the Gallup studies on, and it has full of not only economic data, but statistical analysis, how they've done it, what it means, and so forth. Well, what do the numbers show? What did the data show? Well, for one, happiness was strongly statistically correlated to belief in your control of your future. Social networks of your friends, if you have friends, you were more happier than if you don't. Trust in business and government of the country you live in. Primarily, nations that had stable economies and governments had happier citizens than those nations that did not have stable governments or businesses. But what was more fascinating is that happiness was not statistically correlated to neither physical or things owned or the fiscal wealth that a person had. Money did not buy happiness. In fact, here's a correlation chart that I just threw up here on the board, mainly to take a look at the country and how much money the average household brings. Now, Costa Rica was the #1 happiest place on earth. And by the way, the little V means that I actually visited that country personally, and I will tell you, they're happy. They make less than $5,000 a year, and they're #1. They're in the happy index. You will notice something more interesting. America, of course, is number 10 with 31,000, but we're not the highest. The Luxembourg citizens make more than we do, and they're number 19. But what's more interesting is that the numbers are all over the place. There is no correlation. Well, I think a more important question is why? And by the way, the numbers are based on OECD, which is what our government uses for its statistics. The million-dollar question. If money can buy us, well, almost anything that we want, and we are the wealthiest nation on earth, why does that not still make us happy? Well, reason #1 came from a guy named Richard Cantillon, a Frenchman, was around about 300-some years ago. And he gave us a very interesting phrase that we called opportunity cost. That was his phrase, he coined it. And he said that, look, every choice we make, we have to give something up, as we talked in the beginning. And we don't like giving things up. In fact, every time we're asked to give something up, we kind of feel bad about it. Consider the time spent at work. This is a fun statistics out of Department of Labor as of February 5th, 2013. So pretty fresh data. 25% of U.S. laborers work more than 40 hours per week. Almost 7% of us work over 60 hours per week. Oh, wait a minute. If you're at work, then where are you not? Well, if we're at work, then we are definitely not at home. We're not spending time with our families. We are not taking vacations. We're not maybe pursuing our personal lives, love life, etc. We're giving all of that up in order to keep ourselves where we are. Reason #2. How do we measure success? How do you measure your success in this life? Well, take Sally over here. She says that she's successful because she owns a home, a car, and she actually has a 401k that has positive value. But what she's probably not telling you is that She doesn't have just a car. She has a BMW. I mean, the ultimate driving machine, right? And her house is bigger than all her friends' house. She's successful. She's judging her success based on the success of her peers. But she doesn't like everyone. She kind of doesn't like Donna because she's dating a hedge fund manager and she has a bigger house and everything else, but she's not a very good person. And that seems to be an interesting way of measuring. There's research that shows, and was published in Scientific American, that you will be happier owning the biggest house in the poorest neighborhood than owning the smallest house in the most wealthiest neighborhood. We judge our success based on the success of those who surround us. Reason 3, the ownership dilemma. How many of us ever said this to ourselves? I've earned what is mine. I gave up too much to get here. I might have given up my family. I might have given up all the good times my friends had. I earned what I got, and I'm not giving it up. And I will do whatever it takes either to keep my lifestyle at that level or improve it. Whoa, that sets up a very interesting problem. Because then we get to problem number 4, reason 4, overextension. And this it has to do a lot with credit. The credit system of the capitalism allows you to enjoy the benefits of your future income today. And who wouldn't want to enjoy today what we are going to earn tomorrow? So we start to acquire things on credit. Credit is cheap, less than 2 to 3%, almost free, at the rate of inflation. Well, then you start adding it up. Then you start piling up. You don't notice a small purchase here, a small purchase there. You got mortgage, you got car payments, credit card balances, health insurance, food, and if you have kids, that list just explodes. And then we start to realize that if I lose my job today, I might have maybe 2 months of income left before I'm broke. In fact, statistics show that most Americans are one paycheck away from bankruptcy. And then comes the next one, the Great Recession of 2008. And we all got questioned. Is any of our jobs safe in this economy? How many of us thought that, man, I'm untouchable, and then, whoa, am I touchable? Well, that causes anxiety. Last but not least, even those who were able to make it financially, and those who have enough money to be comfortable, we get into a situation where laws of diminishing returns kicks in. And the laws of diminishing returns, remember, is that for everything that we own, we feel less value to it. This is the problem, by the way, of drug addicts. Every time they take a drug, they need more of it to get the same high. But this is a problem with us. You have a house. Congratulations. Now what? Bigger house? Congratulations. Now what? Bigger house? How do you expand that happiness? And what is absolutely fascinating is this question. If I own everything that I wanted, now I don't know what I want. What do I do? How do I get that next high? That feeling of excitement? And what's absolutely fascinating about this is that if we truly analyze it, we will see that the pleasure we got of accomplishing a goal that we set, the process, was far more valuable, far more enjoyable than the actual acquisition, the physical item. It is what I had to do to get that house or get that car. Not the fact that I own it. When I own it, I own it. Okay, I got it that way. So what's the bottom line? Well, what are the takeaways? First, choose a profession for the love of the profession, not for the money that it pays. Well, we've heard that before. But if you have to go to work someplace you hate just because you need that income, wow, I don't envy you. Invest in experiences, is what research is showing, not just physical products. How you felt, what you did to acquire, that has so much value. And realize that every choice has a cost. Whatever you do, you're going to give something up, something of the next highest value to you. But as we come towards the end, we have to truly analyze the opportunity cost of those decisions. What is it that we're truly giving up? And if we truly analyze those, we might think that we'll notice that we're not giving up the things we want. Or that brings us to the grand finale.
the non-monetary facets of life have lots of economic value. What is the value of a hug from your child? A smile from your friend? Giving your dog a belly rub? Or going on a vacation and watching the perfect sunset? What is the value of that? Well, we can't monetize it. Which means in capitalism, it doesn't exist. It's zero if you can't monetize it. It doesn't work. But it has a lot of value. And what we came down to, Easterlin's research and everything else that was here, is that this. Our individual perception of the value of those facets increases each time we choose to forgo them. So every time you say, you know what, not today, I'm going to go on vacation next year. I'm going to skip this, my kids' play, and I will do some next time. Every time you forgo something, the value of that increases. While the value of what you have done or chosen decreases. So I leave you folks, and I know I finished way before, but that's usually a good thing. I leave you with the following thoughts for research and contemplation for those who wish to continue on this topic. Should universities teach students how to be happy? Is it our responsibility as faculty members, especially in the business school, to stop telling them, hey guys, it's all about the money, it's all about the cash? Do teachers have responsibility to teach school children they cannot buy happiness and go up against the whole capitalistic system? Should parents stop pushing their children to choose professions based on which ones are the most financially lucrative? How many of us would be okay with our kids choosing a profession that can barely meet their needs, but they're happy with? I'm speaking of my experience. My daughter's in my so I don't feel that. And how do we judge our own success? This requires a lot of personal soul searching. How do you judge your success? If it's finances and you look at yourself based on the rest of the world, folks, you are the wealthiest people on planet Earth. America, if you yourselves are in the top 1% of the wealthiest people on Earth. But I doubt you're in the top 1% of the happiest people on Earth. Analyze. What makes you a success? You'll be surprised which might come out. For those of you who are interested, there's a whole bunch of references, and I have more if anybody wants more, but usually nobody does, so blah, blah, blah. I'd like to open up the floor to questions about this topic. Wow, I left you speechless or in the state.
Just a comment.
Yes, sir.
Great presentation.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
A great presentation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.